Hi, everyone. I'm going to try to follow Representative Blanc. That's always difficult. So. And forgive me, I'm a little under the weather. I was out with pneumonia last week, and I'm still recovering, so my voice might not carry as far. So I apologize. Sean Bowie, State Senator for District 18. So I cover Marcos, Corona, Mountain Point, Desert Vista. Mountain Point graduate, two of my old teachers from Mountain Point are right here. So, I don't mean. Well, it's old. It's old. I won't say what year I graduated. But always great to see you guys, and thank you for all the work that you do for our students and our kids and our communities. We really do appreciate it. Just an update. Representative Blanc covered a lot of it. One thing I wanted to mention is actually some good news that's come out of the legislature. Stephanie mentioned a couple things like the ELL bill that passed, the repeal of no promo homo last week. We've also killed a lot of bad bills, and that doesn't get a lot of attention. Maybe there'll be a bill that passes the House and then it gets over to the Senate and just kind of stalls and people don't hear about it anymore, but we've killed a lot of bad bills, and it's only been by 1 or 2 votes each time. So a couple I want to mention. Stephanie mentioned the Kelly Townsend bill going after teachers for any kind of speech in classrooms. That bill was dead and then was resurrected as a striker in our Senate Appropriations Committee 2 weeks ago. It passed committee, but we have the votes to stop it. And that's working with Democrats and Republicans. I'm very confident we have the votes to stop that. Another one, which you might have heard about, deals with school district consolidation. Representative Fillmore bill. We heard that bill in appropriations as well. This bill would not just do a study committee, which we see a lot of times, a study committee consolidation. It would force all school districts to be unified school districts by 2024. The first line of the bill, each district shall be a unified school district by 2024. So obviously we have some problems with that. We have the votes to stop that. And that's a bipartisan coalition that's come together. You know, in my district, I represent portions of the 2 largest school districts in the state, Mesa and Chandler, but I also have districts like Tempe Union and Kyrene and Tempe Elementary who have chosen, the voters in those communities have chosen to be a little bit smaller than a unified school district. And it's my opinion that we should be leaning on the communities on this. It should be a community decision whether school districts should unify. It shouldn't be the state legislature who's mandating this, because we have a few school districts in rural areas that have like 20 students in them. So every school district is kind of a boogeyman if they're not 60,000 students like Mesa Unified is. So we have the votes to stop that. There was a third one I wanted to mention. There was the school district consolidation. What was the third? Oh, how many of you guys heard about this bill about allowing loaded firearms in cars on school campuses? So that bill got out of the House.
Thank you.
So I voted no. It got to the Senate last week. I wasn't there because I was out sick. But the vote on that was 15 yes, 14 no, 1 not voting, meaning me. It didn't pass though, because you need 16 votes. In the Senate, you need 31 votes in the House to pass anything, regardless of how many people are there. I mean, if 10 people are gone from the Senate one day, you still need 16 votes to pass anything. So we knew we had the votes to stop that going in. We had 2 of our Republican colleagues who voted with us to defeat that bill. If I was there, I obviously would have voted no, and it would have been 15-15. But that bill was stopped by 1 vote. So when you think about all the work and effort going into the elections, like if my opponent had won last year, that bill would have passed. So 1 vote is sometimes all it takes. Budget update, as other people have said, we're going to be there for a while. It's definitely going to be after you guys are done with school. It's probably going to be June. The big fight right now is over this one-time surplus. And at least in my time in the legislature, this is my 3rd session, we're not used to having money to play around with. It's always we have to cut things. So it's a one-time surplus of about $900 million. And our budget last year was $10.4 billion. This year, I think it's going to be a little over $11 billion, so we're talking a little less than 10% of the budget. So there are a whole host of ideas for that funding. The governor, as was mentioned, wants to put over half of that in the rainy day fund. So the rainy day fund right now is about $430 million. The governor wants to get it to $1 billion because it's a nice round number with a lot of zeros. We support putting money in the rainy day fund because the next time a recession comes, whether it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now, we saw what happened in 2009. We had a $10 billion budget and a $3 billion deficit. And the first piece that got cut, well, higher ed got cut first, but the second place that got cut was K-12. So the more that we save now, the less we'll have to cut down the road. So we support putting some money in the rainy day fund, but putting over $500 million in the rainy day fund at once, we would like to use some of that for other things. I mean, there's been talk about paying down debt. We have a $900 million K-12 rollover debt. There's been talk about investing in infrastructure. Our number one priority in our caucuses in the House and the Senate is putting that into K-12. Now, this is one-time funding, so it's a little difficult to do teacher raises with one-time funding. We're looking at district additional assistance. So it was mentioned earlier, that is on schedule to be restored over a couple of years. We want to restore this year. So it would take, I think, $190 million. So we want to take $190 million of that $900 million to put into district additional assistance that schools can use this year. So I don't think that's an unreasonable ask. That's like not even 20% of that total. That's our number one ask when we're in these budget meetings and we're talking about the budget. Another ask that I have that I know is really important to a lot of you is we're trying to get more funding for school counselors.
Yes.
The governor did put some funding in there, $6 million, not a lot. We're trying to increase that amount. And ideally what we want to do is the governor in his budget has $6 million for counselors and $9 million for SROs. We've talked about combining that fund, increasing the amount, and giving schools the option if you want to hire a counselor, an SRO, a social worker, a school psychologist, whatever the schools need, that grant funding is available for you. So that's a big ask of ours as well. So when we look at K-12, it's district additional assistance, and it's more funding for counselors. Last thing I'll mention, I have a bill relating to K-12 that's moving through the process. It's like at the 10-yard line. It's waiting for a debate on the House floor. Senate Bill 1468 deals with suicide prevention training in schools, and it would be a mandate that all school personnel, grades 6 through 12, have to undergo training in suicide prevention once every 3 years. Tempe Union has been a leader on this. I know Tempe Union's already doing it, but a lot of school districts aren't. So this is meant to nudge them in the direction of doing this training. We've got a lot of bipartisan support for it. It's passed unanimously in the committees in the House. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to get that bill through and sign into law this year so we can give our teachers and our counselors and our librarians and bus drivers and all those school personnel the resources they need to be able to spot the warning signs in young people before it's too late.